Actually, Harmy, before we move on from the Test match, I wanted to ask you about Brydon Carse making his debut. Of course, he served a 3-month ban, didn't he, for some historical betting misdemeanors. And that was just a couple of weeks ago, so 6 weeks ago, I guess. A Test debut will not come as a great surprise to you. I think you tipped it a couple of years ago on this show.
Yeah, I've seen Brydon early in his career and thought he's got everything it takes to be, I think, a quality all-rounder. I still think what people haven't seen properly yet is his batting, and I think we're 3/4 of the way through day one, and we might see a lot of his batting in Multan. So he is a good player. He is a quick bowler. I think first 2 sessions this morning, he's in day one, he's bowled nicely. He was unlucky with an LBW shout that was given and then overturned for just being outside leg stump. I think he's got a hell of a lot of good qualities that this England group need, which is pace. He bowls from a good height, hits the deck hard, a lot like Liam Plunkett. I think he's got a little bit more control than Liam Plunkett had, but I think that's what made Liam Plunkett more dangerous, with that little bit sort of, that waywardness. What Liam and Brydon Carse have got in common, they bowl wicket-taking balls. I mean, out of nowhere, you'll bowl a ball where you'll go, wow, unbelievable, and just flick somebody's outside edge or bounce off a glove and take and I think that's what England's seeing him. He's had a lot of injuries. That's why he's not played a huge amount of cricket before now. But hopefully, fingers crossed, that he does put a run of games together, because I think what England are looking for in their fast bowlers, Brydon Carse has definitely got it, and he possibly could take Chris Woakes' place at that number 8 all-rounder spot, because he's definitely a competent batter as well.
Okay, one other talking point is the arrival of England's bowling coach on the second day of the first Test in Multan. Jimmy Anderson played in the Dunhill Links at the old course, amongst others, in Scotland. It's one of the great amateur golf events in the world. He's a very, very keen golfer. And Brendan McCullum said that it was fine. He said that he's been coaching by WhatsApp. Before I get your comments, let's just hear an interview that Michael Atherton did on Sky TV with McCullum, asking him about the situation.
Well, I thought he was going to miss the cut as golf's been poor. I didn't anticipate that he'd be able to make the cut. But 2 months ago, you guys were saying that he didn't deserve to be a coach just yet. Now, it's sort of like we're missing him. And I think that's a great affirmation of how good an impact Jimmy Anderson has made in the short period of time, his transition from player to coach.
But if you're saying he's made such an impression as a coach in such a short space of time, obviously his knowledge of reverse swing and the skills that you need to do well here, he's had a particularly good record in the subcontinent in the latter stages of career. Surely, in the week before the first Test, that's when you can have most impact on the group of younger, inexperienced bowlers that you have.
Yeah, I think we live in a world where you can still communicate without being face-to-face.
It's not the same as being here, surely, coaching by WhatsApp.
Maybe not. You'll be here, day 2 or whatever it is, and look, I don't have any concerns over it. I think the other aspect is...
Is that your decision or his, though?
It's a combined decision amongst everyone. Look, Jimmy's just taken to the coaching world. He's made a huge transition from a 20-odd-year career into now this new role. He's on as a bowling consultant as well. He's not on a full-time contract, and we'll take what we can get when we can get it. These guys still have to live their lives. As we know, the challenges and demands of international cricket in the calendar mean that you need to be able to go out and enjoy yourself as well. I think if he was at home with his family, I question whether anyone would have any problems with it. But because he's playing golf, there's some uncertainty around.
That's Michael Atherton on Sky asking Brendan McCullum about Jimmy Anderson's non-participation in the first half of the tour. I don't know whether this is a difficult thing for you to talk about, Harmy. Others pushed McCullum really hard during that interview, and I feel like I've never had to push you hard at all. Now, I know that you're mates with Jimmy, and I know that you will understand far better than me just what a big event it is, and for an amateur golfer to be invited, first of all, to play in this prestigious event. But what is he? Is he a keen golfer, or is he the England bowling coach? I mean, I've never had to push you before, and I have a just feeling that I probably won't have to. I think it's a shocker. I think it's an absolute shocker that he's not there. considering that there is no experienced bowler. Not one of the England seamers in Pakistan has ever played there before.
Yeah, I'm with you, Manners. I'm with you. I'm a beggar's belief, to be honest. I don't blame Jimmy in this. I really don't. And I'm not saying that because he's been there. I don't blame Jimmy in this. It was simple. It was simple. You make the decision. Take Darren Gough. Take Neil Killeen. Take whoever you want. But take somebody for 5 days before the test match. I mean, it's like the India when I was on my soapbox and Ben Stokes decides that we go into a matter. This is the right thing to do. Yeah, it might be the right thing to do, but at the end of it, you got to beat 4-1. This is another one. When you go into a country, it's not a case of having respect for the country. Just give yourselves the best chance. Give yourselves the best chance. Go in 3 days to India. No matter what your preparation was before in Oman, you'll never prepare for what it's like in India. And yes, you won the first test match, but yeah, this is exactly the same situation. I'm sorry. And I don't blame Jimmy in this. I really don't, because if Jimmy says I want to go and play in the Dunhill, not a problem. McCullum said he's not contracted. He's a consultant. So he's a consultant. Just get a different consultant. I mean this by the end of it, really, this is by the end of it. The way day one's going in the first test, and by the end of it, this is a problem that England could have alleviated straight away. Easy, right? Jimmy's a consultant. He's not on a full-time contract. We're transitioning him from a player to a coach. We're going to give him Pakistan off. He'll be back for New Zealand. We're going to take somebody else there because it's been a long summer for him. If they've done that, nobody even batters an eyelid and go and playing in the Dunhill. The minute you say he's a bowling consultant and he's coming in for the second day, I mean, this lot get accused of being arrogant. This lot get accused of, think they're reinventing the cricket wheel. I'm sorry, this could be the start of a huge 18 months for this England cricket management team. And if it doesn't start well, which it potentially hasn't on day one in Multan, little outside distractions they do not need. And one of them was Jimmy Anderson. They did not need Jimmy Anderson being front and center of attention. Like I said, I don't blame Jimmy because they should have just gone, right, Jimmy, if you're going to go and play in the Dunhill, which you want to do, which you've got every right to do because you're a retired cricketer and you're only a consultant, you go, we'll take Neil Killeen, we'll take Darren Gough, we'll take whoever. But you can't have both. He's not the bowling coach. And this is something they'll say as well. England haven't had a fast bowling coach. Jimmy Anderson's been, under McCullum, the first fast bowling coach involved. I mean, there is a little bit jobs for the boys. There is a little bit, if your face fits in this group, you get a gig. If your face doesn't fit, I mean, it's like, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. If I'm England coach, I want my 4 assistants to be my 4 assistants. I don't want somebody throwing on me. I mean, I really don't want to work with somebody I don't want to work with, because at the end of the day, it's my head on the chopping block. You look at England, you look at football, right? I mean, Eddie Howe comes in and doesn't go into Newcastle and go, I'm not having him as coach because the chief exec says he's got to have him as coach. No, he doesn't. He has his 4 main coaches, and they're his mates. They're his coaches. I've got no problem with that from a McCullum point of view. I think it's the right thing to do. But when you're bringing a coach in after 2 days of a test match, when you are possibly going to be 500 for 3, the opposition are going to be 500 for 3 on a flat one. I mean, where do you pick your bowlers up after that? You're saying to your bowlers, right? Come on, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to. Where you been? You've been playing Carnoustie, Kingsbarn, St Andrews for the last 3 days. We've been out there. It's 40 degrees. It's flat. I mean, this is the conversation. I know you probably can't have that to Jimmy Anderson. Like I said before, I don't blame Jimmy. I blame the hierarchy that made that decision, because at the end of the day, if he wasn't going to come for the start, I mean, just give yourself a chance, lads. And again, I'm having a go because it's not giving yourself the best chance. You could have Neil Killeen, you could have Darren Gough out there, you could lose a toss on a flat one, and you could still be, 200 for 1. You could still be, more than likely be, because it's the same bowlers. But you wouldn't have the noise, the external noise that you do not need, and the pressure that you do not need with a decision that you've made like that.
Well said, Harmy. Right, let's hear now from Pakistan Test head coach Jason Gillespie, the former Australian fast bowler. Ahead of the series, Harmy and I sat down with him a couple of days ago to discuss the first few weeks in the job, wanting to create unity within the PCB, and also how he'll work with the white ball head coach, Gary Kirsten. I'm delighted to say we're joined live from Multan by Jason Gillespie, Pakistan's Test match coach. Dizzy, there's always great excitement and anticipation before a Test series, and I'm sure that hasn't changed for you. But there is a kind of added weight of expectation, isn't there, on Pakistan now? Haven't won a game in the last 10, and there's I mean, there's always pressure before a Test series, but is this one weighing a bit heavily?
I wouldn't say it's weighing heavily, Manners, and thanks for the invite and to come on here. G'day, Harmy. Look, the weight's maybe not the word. There's always expectation, isn't there, with Test cricket, with international cricket. So there's always expectation. I think coming into a new role like this and being part of a country of 250 million people where everyone is a Pakistan cricket supporter in a country that cricket is the sport, there is the expectation that the team will do well. And, we're obviously striving to do that. Started my time starting a little bit shaky, so to speak, with the loss to Bangladesh, but we certainly learned some lessons and we're going to be better for the experience. And I think we're just excited to host England, to be perfectly honest. It's a great series to be part of. I'm really looking forward to it. Having been involved in series against England as a player, it's just as exciting being a coach.
Dizzy, as a player, you played for one of the greatest teams of all time. So the pressure of that every single time you go out to play was huge for about 10 years. You're now coaching a country, like you mentioned, 250 million people. The pressure on that is enormous. The confidence levels are really low. I think that's evident for everybody to see. The amount of defeats that Pakistan have had in recent times, just lost to Bangladesh. But how would you go as a coach, putting your arm around players and trying to just build their confidence? Because you can't turn it on like a tap. It's not going to fly up through the roof overnight. How do you do that as a coach, slowly but surely, just making them believe that they're getting better during the time that you're going to be there?
Yeah, Harmy, that's a great question. And I suppose we've started that process with at the selection table. We had 2 losses against Bangladesh, and basically our squad hasn't really changed. We've looked to bolster our. We've added a spinner into the squad, and we've had an injury to a player. So they're the only changes, and they're bringing a spinner into the 15-man squad was purely to give us flexibility with our options. So by and large, we've backed and supported at the selection table the guys that played, and that probably hasn't happened a lot in Pakistan cricket, particularly after a couple of defeats. And I think from my perspective, I was very keen coming into this role. I'm very keen to show my backing and faith and support of the lads. Obviously, if there's an extended period of time where performances aren't where we'd like them to be, then look, obviously selection discussions happen. But I was very keen, having just got into the role. I've been in the role for 2 Test matches. I don't think that's a big enough sample size to be able to start making sweeping decisions and changing the whole fabric of the side, because I think we've got the makings of a very good team. Yes, we've got work to do. We're very understanding of that. But I think by putting the arm around the players, showing them that I care, and wanting them to, perform really strongly for Pakistan, we've done that at the selection table.
Dizzy, I was reading that you recently had a clear the air morale building camp with Gary Kirsten as well, and all of the players. Obviously, I mean, I don't know if you know, I was very good friends with Bob Woolmer and Mickey Arthur, and they both spoke about the fact that there were always people in Pakistan cricket, not necessarily within the squad, administrators who weren't always pulling in the right direction. And how did that go? Obviously, it was private, but I saw photographs, so I presume it did actually happen. And the,
But assure you, it did happen.
Okay, was that was some important work done there?
Yeah, so look, there was a lot of speculation about what the connection camp was. Was it naming? Was it deciding who was going to skipper the teams in various formats? Was there going to be sweeping changes? And it was, for us, it was very simple. From Gary Kirsten's and my perspective, being new to Pakistan cricket, we wanted to listen and learn and understand a bit more about Pakistan cricket. So we got all the key stakeholders in Pakistan cricket, players being one of them. So we had 9 players there. We had a varying spectrum of experienced players and lesser experienced players to get a broad view of things, Pakistan cricket from a player's perspective. And then we just had some of the administrators, people that work at the PCB, some of the higher ups, and the coaches, and people that worked in the media department at Pakistan cricket. And it was just about, and it was literally about connecting. It was called the Connection Camp. It was about just getting together, sharing ideas, I suppose sharing each other's stories about, so one example, some of the people in the PCB in the office were just sharing what their day-to-day work day looked like. Because the players probably didn't really understand. They just know these people just work at the PCB and, they work and we play. And it was sharing experiences, really. So the players then shared what a day in their life was like. And it was about, we also spoke about aligning messaging that comes out of the PCB, so that the players, so that the PCB, all the coaches, all the words, we've got a united voice and putting out good positive messages out about Pakistan cricket and what we're trying to achieve. We know that there's challenges, and these are the steps we're taking to address various issues and things we want to improve and get better. But a lot of it was Gary and I took a bit of a back seat once we got all the players together in a room, and we just had conversations. We had David Reed, sports psychologist and coach, who was there, who drove our conversation with the players. But Gary and I were just listening, learning, and trying to understand and this big landscape that is Pakistan cricket, and we're learning all the time, and each day, we're learning something new every day, which is great. So that was, in a nutshell. I hope I've explained that, man. That's kind of what we wanted to do. Just everyone connect and share experiences.
Dizzy, one of the big challenges you've got on the horizon, you've got England coming, Ben Stokes' team. Yep. They're coming hard, no matter which direction you try and contain them at. They don't hide for the way they play. Are you ready for them? Are you looking forward to it? Have you spoke to anybody in Australia who had mixed success against England in the Ashes in the recent past? But there's one thing for sure: Ben Stokes' team for 3 Test matches will come hard.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think everyone's left in no doubt how England play their cricket, and that provides us with a challenge, no doubt, but it also presents us with opportunities. We know how England play, and let's talk about their batting. We know they look to be very aggressive. There's the term of phrase that they call a Baz ball. I don't think that's, you probably know better than me, Harmy. I don't think that's actually used in the England dressing room, but no. It just, from the outside, it just looks like it's just their philosophy is just looking to take the game on. And if you think you can take the bowlers on, then you have the freedom to do that. That's how it looks like from the outside. We understand that. We've been doing our research, doing our planning on how we can counter that. And we're excited by that challenge and opportunity, because we think there are opportunities to have an impact against England. We think we match up well against England. we're also very aware that they're a very good side and they've been playing some really good cricket. So the challenge is there. We know that we're the underdogs. Everyone's writing Pakistan off, and everyone's looking at the glass half empty mentality with Pakistan cricket. And look, we understand that. That's how the media works. But within our camp, the opposite is true. We see this as a great challenge, but a great opportunity to show what we can do. And we know this England side's good, but we also know that there is some inexperience there as well. And if that's something that we can exploit, but them being ultra aggressive is something that we can exploit, then we'll certainly go down that path.
Two key players, obviously, Babar Azam and Shaheen Shah Afridi. And you can relate to both of them, of course, being a double centurion yourself. I'm sure you can help Baba through his slump in form. But Shaheen Shah Afridi, I mean, relationships are so important, aren't they? I mean, Gary Kirsten said a couple of weeks ago that he was concerned about workload management, and Afridi himself last week said that he didn't think that was an issue, and Waqar and Wasim bowled hundreds and hundreds of overs in their prime. Are the relationships with those two players that you have formed or are forming going to be key to this series?
Yeah, look, we're developing strong relationships with those guys. They're fantastic people, wonderful players, as you mentioned. And look, I saw Gary's comments because we've spoken about it a lot. As a country where there's two different head coaches for formats, it's really important that our relationship is strong and we're moving in the same direction. As Test coach, I'm well aware that there's a lot of white ball cricket at the back end of the year, November, December, and then January going into a Champions Trophy, which is in Pakistan, which is a massive thing for Pakistan cricket and massive thing for this country. So I'm well aware that with a lot of that white ball cricket and a lot of our all format players, of which Shaheen Afridi, Babar Azam fall into that category, we need to manage them. And whether we need to manage them in white ball cricket or we need to manage them in red ball cricket, then we're both open to doing that. And we just have to have open adult conversations because ultimately Gary and our goal is the best interests of Pakistan cricket, the best interests of our players at heart. And if it means we have to rest players from time to time, particularly our all format players, then we will do that, regardless of the format. If we think it's in the best interest of the team and the best interest of the individual, we will do that. Look, Shaheen's comments. Shaheen does everything at 100%. That's what I've learned about him. He charges in, he charges around the field, he bats aggressively. Everything about him is 100 miles an hour, and because he just loves playing cricket. He loves playing for Pakistan so much, and we just need to make sure that he didn't play the second test against Bangladesh, and there was I suppose it was the start of my tenure here in Pakistan. I probably learned a valuable coaching man management lesson with Shaheen very early because his wife was due with their firstborn child midway through the first test against Bangladesh, and all my instincts were telling me that I should be strongly encouraging Shaheen to go and spend time with his family at this point in time because for me that's really important. He was insistent that he was keen to play. He was desperate to play. It'll be okay. Baby will come after the game, all this sort of stuff. So we were chatting away. It was just niggling away at the back of my mind that maybe I should be looking after our player here. And then, as it so turns out, baby was born halfway through the test match. And so in the end, and yeah, there was some cricket stuff that, we wanted to see some progression in and that, but ultimately, I made the call that I thought it was in his best interest to go and spend some time with his wife and newborn son. So that's one example. That was a good lesson for me, and to trust my instincts a little bit more, I suppose. But certainly, looking after our players in that space for me is going to be very important going forward.
And what you're expecting, yeah, I agree. I mean, Dizzy, I always use you an example about your man management skills. I only played for you briefly at Yorkshire, but I talk about Liam Plunkett. Liam Plunkett, he wasn't a lost soul, but he was somebody who was struggling with his action, just like you've just exactly have you've described Shane Charfridi. He was all over the place mentally a little bit. He wanted to be in at everything, red ball, white ball, wanted to bat high, wanted to bowl as fast as he could. It was all over the place. His numbers were getting higher. And then all of a sudden, the human element, your human element was the part of it, I think, which helped Liam more than anything else. So is that the area where you think, you know what, connecting with Shaheen Shah Afridi? Because I think the reason why we ask about Babar Azam and Shaheen Shah Afridi, because they're global superstars. They are if they do well, Pakistan do well. Is it the human element that you think is probably what's needed at this moment for him to get back on track? Because the talent is obviously there for all to see.
Harmy, you bang on. I think it's crucial for all our players, not just the guys you mentioned. I think it's critical. These guys play all formats. They're in demand around the world with the leagues, and Gary and I are having constant conversations about how do we balance this out, because we're the Pakistan coaches and we want our players playing as much as they can for Pakistan, but we also want them to have life experiences in terms of and cricketing experiences, learning from other coaches, from other players in different leagues around the world in different environments. So we find that balancing act, and we've also got to make sure that these guys have lives away from the sport as well, and with the example I mentioned with Shaheen. So we need to put all that together and again, just have open and honest conversations with everyone involved, and because ultimately we want what's best for Pakistan, we want what's best for the individual players, and so I'll be doing everything I can. I think your point about that human element. I mean, we're all humans. We've all got stuff going on that people may not necessarily see or hear about. But that's why, I think always having that mindset of being kind, is got to be at the forefront of your thinking, because, we can't walk in other people's shoes. We can try and empathise as much as we can, but until you have those conversations and just that honesty and it comes from a good place. We're just here to help. We're here to help you be the best player you can possibly be, and give you the platform in which to do that. And so it's just comes down to communication in the end, Harmy.
We've been asked to ask you about the Border Gavaskar Trophy, but maybe I'll let Harmy ask you about that. Just one question, because I've got a burning question. Incredible coaching CV, really. I mean, from Adelaide Strikers to Sussex to Yorkshire to, was it the Mountaineers in Zimbabwe?
I was with the Midwest Rhinos.
Midwest Rhinos, yes.
In Kwekwe, beautiful little town in the Midlands there. Wonderful place. I had a wonderful experience in Zimbabwe. I always talk highly of it. It's just the most remarkable place. I absolutely loved it.
Such a great town. They named it twice, Kwekwe. This must be, I'm assuming this must be a greater challenge than all of the other coaching roles that you've taken up. Somebody said to me that somebody you and I both know, I'll tell you off air, that Gillespie's a great manager and a wonderful, kind person. He may be too much of that for Pakistan, which I thought was maybe a little bit offensive.
If being kind is seen as a negative, well, I'm guilty as charged. I don't think you can be too kind to people. I think you've got to. I think the key is part of being kind is being really honest with players and staff. So yeah, I'm probably guilty as charged, Manners. I personally don't see it as a negative, but others can. That's fine.
That's definitely not a negative in my experience around you, Diz. One quick last one on the series. What are you expecting in Multan and in Rawalpindi? And then, I'm doing manners here, 2 questions in one. The Boris Gavaskar Trophy coming up. What are you expecting from the India Australia series? And the balance of the sides always talked about in Australia, and Steve Smith opening the bat, and where does Cameron Green fit in? I know it's not your worry, but I'm sure as a proud Aussie, you'd be desperately wanting your countrymen to be India.
Yeah, for sure. Just a circle back to your first question about our series here. Multan, this is my first time in Multan. New experience, wonderful facility. We just trained there today. It's a fantastic cricket ground. Got a good coverage of grass on the surface, so we'll see what happens there. But it's a great field, and I think the surface will promote some really good cricket. So, I think both teams have to play on it, and I think for us, there's been a lot of talk about conditions, surfaces, where we play, all this sort of stuff. I keep coming back. We've just got to play better. That's the bare facts. We can talk about surfaces. We can talk about this, that, the other. We just need to play better, and we need to put our energy into what allows that to happen. So that's where we are with this series. We're excited about the series. To have a big country like England come out here to Pakistan for a 3-test tour is huge for Pakistan cricket. So we're really energised, really excited, and looking forward to it. Looking ahead to the Border Gavaskar Trophy, always a hard-fought one between Australia and India. I'll always say in Australia, even though in India won last time, in Australia, it's a hard place to win in Australia. And I think as a general rule in world cricket, to win away from home, poses its challenges. But I think if anyone's going to challenge Australia, it is India in Australia. India, well-balanced side. They're confident. They're up and about. I'll still back the Aussies in, but it'll be a very tight series. Your question about Steve Smith, about where the batting order fits in, it just from afar, it just seems all the dialogue is that Steve Smith may move back into the middle order, whether it be at 3 or 4. Most likely back at 4. I don't think I think they'll want to minimise the disruption of that batting order as much as they can. So, I just wonder whether on the back of Travis Head's blistering form at the top of the order in white ball cricket, whether they just decide, let's see what Trav can do at the top of the order. Even though he's been so successful at 5, I think that allows Marnus Labuschagne to stay at 3. It keeps Usman at the top, Steve Smith at 4. Then they can play the 2 all-rounders in Green and Mitch Marsh at 5 and 6 with Carey at 7. So I suspect if I was to guess which way they go, I would suspect that would be the way the Australians go.
And finally, for me, I'm going to cover my back here. I've experienced more kindness and generosity in Pakistan than almost every other cricket country that I've ever been to. And I think the point the person was making was that Pakistan cricket is different to Pakistan, but it's a wonderful country. And I know that you'll be a success, Dizzy. You're enjoying it, aren't you?
Yeah, man. Look, I really am. It's certainly something different. It is a real challenge. There's no doubt about that. It's a good challenge, but it's something. Look, I went in eyes wide open with. I was still contracted to the Adelaide Strikers in South Australia, and and I was fully committed to seeing out those contracts and seeing where I was after that. But then this opportunity presented itself, so I applied, managed to secure the role, which was great, and I've gone into it eyes wide open. I know there's been a lot of upheaval. There's been changes in chairmen, there's been changes in selectors, there's been changes in coaches, there's been a high turnover, there's been a lot of instability, and I've keep coming back to, if we can just develop some consistency off the field, there's a chance, it gives us the best chance of having some more consistency on the field. So So that's been my focus, is being a consistent person as well, in my demeanour and everything that goes on. We just develop consistent training routines, consistent plans, having consistent process in leading up to games, consistent training, and consistency with selection. If we can just build these things in to Pakistan cricket and show everyone that, one, we care, and two, we're giving this our best, then I think that gives us the best chance of having some success.
And finally, from me, Des, I wish you all the very best, even against England, because you're a wonderful human being. You are an unbelievable man, both on and off the field. An absolute gentleman, both on and off the field. I wish you well with Pakistan. Was the job with, my sort of recollection of you at Yorkshire and at Sussex, there was a lot of upheaval from a family point of view. But does this job feel more, because I know England have gone to one all-format coach? You can refresh yourself by getting back to Australia, back to that wonderful family you've got, and then giving the Pakistan guys everything you've possibly got.
Yeah, Harmy, to be perfectly honest, one of the attractions of the role it is one format of the game. Just being able to focus solely on Test cricket. It does give me that flexibility in terms of the balance between home life and travelling. I haven't travelled internationally much in the last, basically, since I started coaching, I haven't travelled as much as I did as a player, because I've been in domestic cricket. So haven't done the travel that international cricket entails. But part of the attraction of this role, and part of the attraction of this role for Gary as well in the white ball space, was that we did get that really important time at home with our families. So when we're here to work and work with the boys and help them get better and play some good cricket. But then so for me, when the white ball teams are travelling, I get the opportunity to spend some time with my family back in Adelaide. So that's great. That's where it is. That was part of the attraction to the role, and obviously being involved in international cricket, is fantastic. Sorry, my phone's ringing in my room here. I don't know who's ringing. A bit weird.
Well,
your laundry's ready.
I reckon it might be, actually.
Room service. Jason, you've been incredibly generous with your time, and we thank you. And I echo Harmy's sentiments. Very, very best of luck. A strong Pakistan team is good for world cricket. So I hope it's a cracking series. Thank you for your time. Massively appreciated.
Thank you so much, guys, for all the kind words. And Harmy, I'll slip you that £100 for those really kind words that you said, mate. So thank you.
And a reminder, we'll be bringing you daily podcasts after every day's play throughout England's tour of Pakistan. So look out for that. John Norman and Harmy will be analysing each day's play. You're listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. Next up, we'll discuss England's white ball squad that's been named for their tour of the West Indies later this month, which is live and exclusive on talkSPORT 2. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, alongside Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison. And you can now watch us as well on YouTube. If you're not doing that already, just head over to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and subscribe. Okay, England named their white ball squads for the 2 series in the West Indies, 3 ODIs and 5 T20s. Plenty of talking points. Harmy, Yorkshire leg spinner Jaffer Chowan earns his first England call-up, and Dan Mosley and John Turner, the only other uncapped players in the squad. And it's a very interesting little addendum at the end of that squad announcement. 2 players will have the good fortune and the adventure of travelling from Rawalpindi after the Test series. Rawalpindi to Antigua. Mind boggles.
That is some travel. That I remember being in India when we on that fateful trip in 2006 when everybody got injured and we had to send SOSs to the Caribbean for a certain Sir Alistair Cook and Jimmy Anderson, and it took about 3 days to get to I think Nagpur, where they eventually had to set sail to. But no, I quite like the squad. I think we've got to eventually see John Turner. I'd love to see what he's all about, because I've heard a great deal about him, seen him bowl a few times, but I think hopefully he will get his chance. Second Mahmood. I think we've got to be careful on Mahmood. I think we're still to see the best of him yet properly, because I think the run of games, and I think this will do him the world of good, having some winter with cricket without getting injured. I think it's a well balanced squad. A couple of debutants. Like to see Mosley, Charon. I watched him in the summer for Yorkshire against Durham in a T20 game. He bowled beautifully there. And a special mention to the sort of the Secker Academy, who is getting their first player into the England national full 11 or full squad anyway. And he's going to work alongside his mentor and Adil Rashid. So I think all in all, I think it's a good squad. Additions too probably will be Cox and likely either Potts or Carse. By that time, there'll be about 2'2" bowling on these. If Deer One and Mumbai and Multan's got anything to do with it, I think they might be looking forward to a trip to the Caribbean. But look, I think all in all, it's a good squad. I'm pleased to see. I know we're going to speak to Sam Curran in a second, but I'm pleased to see Sam back, because he didn't play in the ODIs. I'm worried that, and I'm going to ask him this, I'm worried that he's getting pigeonholed to be a T20 player. He's a better cricketer than that. He is a world-class cricketer with a world-class mindset. I'm not saying it's time for him to kick on, because it's not. I think it's about whether he fits in to this group, and I think hopefully working with McCullum eventually, not on this trip, but eventually working with McCullum, and eventually get him in all three formats, because I think Sam Curran's a really, really good cricketer, and I'm pleased to see he's back in 50 over cricket.
And joining us live is Sam Curran. Delighted to say now that we are joined live by England all-rounder Sam Curran to look ahead to the T20s and the ODIs in the West Indies a little later this month, all of which are live and exclusive here on talkSPORT 2. Sam, thanks so much for your time. Have you? It's been a busy season, hasn't it? A county championship and hat tricks in the 100, and of course the Oval Invincibles retaining their title. Have you had a chance to catch your breath and have some time off?
Thanks for having me, lads. Yeah, I think obviously now season's done. So, I guess really looking forward to the West Indies. Like you said, it's coming up. But yeah, the season was pretty good. I guess didn't play as much county championship as I would have liked, but we just kind of had our end of season awards and at the Oval last week. And you see the club going to 3 championships in a row, which is pretty incredible, really. I played a lot in that first year that we won it. And then just the way the season and the schedules panned out, I haven't really, but I was really quite emotional. Leaving Stewie, obviously kind of moving on at the club a little bit, which was quite sad for a lot of the boys, a lot of the club. But and then the 100, obviously a really good season, another trophy there, which was really special. And I guess, 2 weeks off and then we straight back to the West Indies, which is exciting.
Sam, from a highlight point of view, and I'll give you an example. I always said when I won the championship in 2008, it meant just as much, if not more, than winning in 2005, because of what Durham and what the club meant to me. When I ask you this year, 2024, with the 100, with IPL, with ODIs, with Surrey winning, if I said to Sam Curran, which would be the highlight of your summer or your year of 2024, what would it be? Because you've done an awful lot of winning.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky question. I think, especially looking back at last week, when I go back to the club at Surrey, where, like I said, I only played two championship games. It's a place I feel at home. It's a place I feel kind of, valued in terms of if I'm struggling with something, I always go back to Bats or Stewie or I guess Jade's there now, bowling coach. We had Azam Mahmood. So those are probably guys that I've always, I guess, that's a club I always feel really special and kind of. But obviously, winning the 100, I'd probably say is probably my highlight, just because of the way my season went, and we went as the Oval Invincibles in terms of, like you said, it's easier to win one trophy, but to win another one back to back. And I guess you can say the same with Surrey, but I obviously didn't play loads of 4-day games, but the games I did play, the team felt so settled. The structure was, even when I turned up, you guys just knew their role. And I'd probably say, just a personal highlight, probably the 100. But I think as a club and as a player to say I was a part of the 3-peat, which they're calling it, is pretty special.
Interesting you mentioned the word role there, Sam, because Harmy and I seems like for the last 3 years on this program have been talking about the fact that it's a great compliment that you are asked to fulfill so many different roles because you can. I mean, honestly, in England, I don't know if there's a player with more sort of cross format skills. And I mean, you can bowl anywhere in the innings, take the new ball, bowl at the death, bat in the top order, finish it, or bat in the middle. You do everything. Do you get a bit tired of the discussion of role definition? Would you would you like yours to be a bit clearer, or do you like doing everything?
I obviously love doing everything, but yeah, I guess there's many teams, like you said, I do so many different roles. Especially a moment like now, having 2 weeks off, and kind of I look back at the season and where things went well, went wrong. I'll be totally honest. I probably feel with a team like the Oval Invincibles in Surrey, and I guess a couple of franchise teams, I think my role's been pretty clear and I've pretty nailed it on. Whereas with England, I personally probably feel because you've been that all rounder, probably in the last few years, myself, Mo and Ali, Liam Livingston, we always kind of those all rounders at kind of 6, 7, 8, 9 almost. Wokesy as well. And yeah, I think it can be confusing. It's kind of sometimes you take the new ball and then you go to kind of the four seamers and you're the one to lose the new ball kind of thing. So it's quite like it's a frustrating role, but I guess that comes with being an all-rounder. I probably think my strongest role in most teams is batting in the top 6 and bowling. So I guess me and Harvey had a discussion a few weeks back about these type of things, but I love playing all sorts of roles, and I guess my goal now is always to try get back into the England sides, and I guess that's what I'll be doing.
Yeah, there's a little bit less alcohol on at this minute in time, even though I'm on hold at this minute in time. But and it was a great discussion, and your honesty was unbelievable. I just want to ask you about, you're talking about roles and everything that's going. I get worried a little bit. Oh, especially in the summer when you didn't get picked in the test team. I was really frustrated. Might as well tell you on this show, I got very, very frustrated. And I think I told you that at Thorpe's funeral about not being the one that replaced Ben Stokes. You didn't get picked in the 50 over squad. Is there a concern that you may be getting pigeonholed for just a T20 player? And would that worry you? Because it would certainly worry me that you're not up for test selection.
Yeah, I think I'll be totally honest. I think that when Stokesy did get injured, I'd be dumb not to, and it might sound that big myself up, but I did probably think that was my way back into the test team. Actually, a couple of weeks back ago, I had a meeting with Keezy and kind of just to get a bit of understanding of where the group is in terms of how I see myself getting back into the test side. I think for me, especially being a young player who experienced test cricket so young, I feel like I have the advantage to know what it's about, to know what winning a test match is, and the grind and the grit and attitude that you need. And I think that personally I did take a little bit, not too hard, but kind of I was a little bit gutted to selection. And I thought that was my way back into the side at the minute. I guess they've got their own structure at the minute, and they're picking the guys that they like and that fit that environment in terms of there's a big thing going on at the minute about the extra pace and stuff like that. But I've got to be honest, I was slightly disappointed not to be picked there. And I guess if you got to fit the mold of what they're looking for right now, and I guess in 12 months' time, that might be totally different.
Talking about the other captain, Harmy and I were also surprised when Joss was unavailable. We assumed that you, having IPL captaincy experience, would be the natural man to step in there as well. Where does captaincy sort of sit on your radar? I mean, you do it in the IPL. Is it something that you're keen to pursue? Yeah,
definitely. I really enjoyed. I've captained Surrey a few times, and obviously with the Punjab Kings in the IPL. And yeah, I guess it's actually something I think is really interesting as an all-rounder being a captain. I think when I did it, I actually forgot about my own game quite a bit, which was in a nice positive way where the main focus is purely on the team winning. I think probably look up to someone like Stokesy in a way. He's looked how he's done it, and he's kind of brought the confidence to the players, go out there, really take it on. And I think it was really exciting. I obviously done bits and pieces of it here and there, and yeah, it's something I definitely like to do and feel that I read the game and situations pretty well. So yeah, I guess in the teams where I play the next few months, and yeah, it's a busy winter again, and yeah, who knows? Maybe in the future I can captain a few more sides.
Yeah, and that for me it fits with the way you think about the game. You like Ben in such a way where you're trying to progressive and want the game going forward. Ben worked brilliantly with Brendan McCullum in the Red Bull side of it. He's now in charge of the whole shooting match. He's now in charge of the whole English cricket. Is that exciting? Do you think that is, where you think right in 12, 18 months, 2 years time, if the captaincy does come up in the white ball team, working with someone like McCullum, the way he works with Stokes, is that something that really floats your boat?
Yeah, I guess the main thing now is probably trying to find my way back into these teams. I guess I've never worked with Brendan, so I guess from what I've heard and from what I've got, a lot of mates in the test setup and guys in the white ball team that have also worked with him. So the main message is he brings out the best in terms of character, confidence, and it feels like a lot of guys have lost that fear of failure. And I guess the fear of failure is always going to be there in international sport. But I think you look at guys like, I'm really good mates with someone like Ollie Pope, who probably has benefited from that in terms of he's gone out there, knows number three is his spot, and he plays some special knocks. But it's the backing that I guess players are getting now, which if you look back in the past, it's probably never really been there. And I guess if you're part of the regime now and you're getting back, there's probably no better feeling in terms of going out, playing for your country and knowing that you don't have to think about, if I bowl a bad ball, I could be under pressure, or if I play a bad shot. So I think it's that mindset that it looks like he's brought in, and hopefully I can try get into those sides more consistently. And I'm sure I probably would benefit from working with him.
Finally, from me, Sam, what about the West Indies and their development, and what do you particularly enjoy about going back to the Caribbean?
Yeah, actually, we got the call the other day about the squads going there. Really excited. I think it's the ODI team and T20 teams obviously changing slightly, like Harmy said, new coach, and he's obviously not there right now. But West Indies is obviously a great place to tour. There's no question about that. Good golf, good restaurants and stuff. But in terms of the cricket, I think, especially on the T20 front, I guess there's probably no more tougher team to play against in their own conditions. The way they strike the ball, the power, the kind of miss hits as a bowler, you miss your Yorker, and the winds in the Caribbean, you always have one shorter side. And yeah, I think, to be honest, on a personal level, it's going to be quite a big opportunity. I feel like it's an exciting tour. I hopefully will get roles where I can bat higher up the order and try and actually, with England especially, I feel like I do it a lot in terms of other setups. And I just hope it's an opportunity I can try and nail down a spot. And yeah, I guess there's a few guys away with the test side now in Pakistan. And yeah, I think fingers crossed it's a good tour and we win a few games.
Well, hopefully, Sam, we'll speak to you before the end of 2025. But once you get the West Indies out the way, there's an exciting 2025 in there. I mean, you've got the IPL, you've got the 100 to come round again, hopefully trying to get into this test team when they play India. If we are sitting here in 12 months' time, what would you love to see Sam Curran being involved in? And what do you think the future holds for 2025?
Yeah, I think you look past December, the schedule next year is amazing with Champions Trophy, Tour to India, IPL, like you said. It's a huge test summer, some great ODIs and T20. I think my main goal at the minute is to try and be a bit more stable and settled in the England environment. I think it is a team in the last few years, ever since, I guess, as a player being on the fringe, I just want to try and be a bit more consistent in getting into that side. And I know the regime's changing a little bit in terms of guys that fit into their certain roles, and I think they want a bit more stability across all three formats. And I hope I can be a part of that. And I think there's only one way of doing that, is scoring runs, taking wickets, and winning games for England or the franchises. But I guess, yeah, I think there's no doubt I'd love to be on an Ashes tour or a Champions Trophy victory and stuff like that. So yeah, fingers crossed. I'm someone who likes to prove a point, so fingers crossed the next couple of months go well.
Problem is, Sam, you're a little bit too good at everything. They can't find a pigeonhole for you.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I think it's just, yeah, I think at the minute you're going to either be in the. I guess it's interesting. It's a debate you can talk for a lot of time about. I think the way the teams are being set out now, it's kind of guys are getting picked on certain skills and certain a little bit. I guess I don't mind saying, but kind of out of the unknown in a way where I guess you pick guys and they've actually done really well. So I guess as a county player, in terms of, it's quite an interesting one because you've got to hope that you fit that mold right now, and if you don't, you just got to crack on and win games for your franchise, your counties, and just hope that call comes. There's actually nothing you can do about it. If you fit what they're looking for, you're great. But if you don't, it actually might not be an ability thing. It's just right now they're looking for, that's what they want. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it's at the minute, if you're fitting what they're looking for, it's not they taking what they see in, I guess, 12 months time and the Ashes, these are the guys they want. So I think you can't question it until I guess their plan comes to an end, if that makes sense.
It does. Just take wickets, score runs, and enjoy the Caribbean. And thank you so much for your time. Massively appreciated.
I will. No worries. Cheers, guys.
You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. And if you've missed any of the show and you want to catch up, you know what to do by now. Download the podcast from the Following On feed, available as always via the free talkSPORT app or wherever you get your podcast from. Okay, England Lions have announced a 19-man squad for a 4-week tour to South Africa from November the 20th to December the 15th. It includes a 4-day match against South Africa A at Newlands in Cape Town. 17-year-old Harry Moore is amongst 6 first-time Lions call-ups, whereas Pat Brown, Dylan Pennington, Josh Hull, Dan Mosley and John Turner have all been involved in senior England squads in the past. And of course, it's the first gig for Andrew Flintoff as the Lions head coach, Harmy. Graham Swan is also part of the coaching team, isn't he? And he's promised to join us on next week's show to talk more about this squad. But I just want to make the point again, how impressively refined I think the whole Lions setup has become. And I can still remember the days when it was a sort of a mishmash. And, you could have imagined these sort of selectors going like, oh, no, is that next week? Oh, blimey, we better put a squad together then. But now, I mean, there really does, it really, Rob Key's a big fan, isn't he? I mean, he's a massive fan of the pipeline that is the Lions team.
Yeah, he is, and I think it's important. I think one of the biggest failings of, unfortunately for Ashley Giles, Chris Silverwood era, was when COVID hit. These tours stopped, and I think and I think what I mean by that is under 16s, under 19s, Lions, all them tours, the development, the education of going away, playing with better players against better players on foreign soil. When that stopped, I think you've seen a difference of, the conveyor belt coming through. And I think now we're starting to get back to a little bit more normality where, younger players are finding out what touring life is like, without being thrust under so much pressure of, right, you're now on an England tour and the pressures that come with that. I don't think you could get a better two who are going to be involved in teaching these young kids. I mean, they'll be bouncing off the roof when they eventually get to the England. I mean, they'll go into the England dressing room eventually and feel as though this is a calmer place because Swanee's not going to be there. But I mean, I was with Swanee last week, and I mean, for 3 days, Swanee's great, but I'm not sure I'd fancy 6 weeks with him, especially on a plane in and out of South Africa. But what a character you have in Graham Swan. Andrew Flintoff, another larger than life, caring, humble human being who will teach and educate these young players about what touring life is about, because that's what this whole exercise is. Can you go and play with good players against better players on pitches with using different types of cricket balls, which are alien to what you have at home? And I think that, for me, is what the beauty about the Lions squad. In the old days, some of the Lions trips or the air tours, that would be, it would be 3 or 4 players who had got over 1,000 runs who were never going to play for England, so we'll just recognise them and give them an ear cap. This is now, you can see there's a clear plan of the next ones that we feel in 2 years' time are going to play cricket for England, And let's get them all together. Let's give them a great environment. Let's let them learn how to play overseas in warm conditions. And I'm excited by quite a few of them. I'm pleased to see Pat Brown back. I mean, we had Mickey Arthur on, not long ago talking about, the Derbyshire and getting Pat Brown, and he's playing 4-day cricket, and I'm really, really pleased for him because he's had a ridiculously injury, trodden career. Dylan Pennington, who got picked for England and everybody wanted to see. Obviously, didn't have much of a chance in the summer when he got injured again. The one for me is Harry Moore. I'm really, really excited about him. Martin Spate told me about him last year or the year before and said, Army, you've got no idea what I've got here at, what school is he at now? I'm trying to think Repton School. He said, I've got something here which I'm very, very excited about. And he had Harry Brook before that. So, I mean, it's a very, very good squad, and they've got some, good young talented players. And I think with the guidance of Flintoff and Swan, they've got everything they possibly need to succeed, and not many excuses to fail. So I think all in all, it should be a good trip before Christmas to South Africa, and an even better one after Christmas. I'm sure there'll be some different faces in, but they're going to Australia after, and there might be one or two of these like being earmarked to go to Australia full time next year when the Ashes comes around.
A couple of other interesting talking points. Jaffa Chowan and Lancashire wicketkeeper batter Matt Hurst they've both been selected in the Big Bash, so that's really interesting. And at the risk of applying the kiss of death, I think Hamza Sheikh is as good as any 20-year-old batsman I have seen, a top order batsman, and I just think he's going to score a dozen hundreds for England in Test cricket. As I said, I don't want to apply the kiss of death, but he's the real deal, isn't he?
He is. He's got aggression. He's got style. He's got a very, very good technique. He looks as though he's got a very good temperament as well. For what I've seen, I've only sort of followed it on probably numbers a couple of times on the stream, but not being somebody I want to go out there and say, right, this kid is going to play 100 Test matches for England, because I would be unfair to say it because I've not seen enough of him. But I think everybody that I've spoke to, especially Ian Bell, I mean, he thinks this boy is a real talent. So he captained as well under 19s. So that tells you that the establishment like his cricket brain, because he's been left in charge. I'm pleased to see James Ruin there as well. I think I thought he had an outside chance of being that England wicketkeeper batter when they were talking about Jamie Smith, Ollie Robinson, and one or two others. So it just looks a nice balanced squad. A lot of fast bowlers, but I think on trips like that you do need a lot of fast bowlers. But the batters that are in there, the Hamza Sheikhs, the Ben McKinneys, I think England have got a nice group of 19 going over into South Africa before Christmas.
And the wondrous Scott Taylor, our wonderful producer, has just corrected me. Hamza Sheikh's actually only 18 still. He's not even 20. Let's move on to a couple of other news items. Talk of the ECB wanting to increase the maximum wage in the 100 from £125,000 to 300,000, and introduce multi-year contracts, and also prevent, I guess this means don't issue NOCs, non-objection certificates, to players to go and play in other franchise tournaments. That's is that basically aimed at America? I guess Major League Cricket.
Yeah, America, Canada, and I think they're right. I think that is right. I'm not one for stopping players playing all around the world. I'm encouraging it always, but I think from the 1st of April till I think the 1st of October, I think unless you go into the IPL, I'm not convinced that we should be allowing players to go and play outside, the British Isles. For the simple fact is, if I'm going to fight, and this is where my stance is on it. If I'm fighting, and we fight for county cricket manners, we are both, along with John and with Nick Friend and George DeBell, who do as the County Cricketer Show. If we're going to fight for county cricket to be the best version of itself, and try and keep everything, the lights on, and keep 18 satellite counties and everything that's going for it. If we're going to fight for this form of cricket that we love, we have to fight for it in such a way where we make sure that if we're going to produce players through that system, we ain't going to let them go and play somewhere else during the time we play. And what I mean by that is, once the 1st of April comes, if you're not on the IPL, or you're not potentially going to the IPL as a replacement, no other league should get an England cricketer or English-born cricketer while the county system needs you. And I think that is so important. Pakistan have done it, and they've been criticised for it. We should be doing it. And if we do that, we then have to, we have to pay them correctly. And that is probably where the hundreds going from 125,000 to 300,000. I would let an extra overseas player in. I really would, because I'd want to enhance. If you're going to pay somebody and you're going to dangle a carrot that you're going to be paid 3 times more money than what you got for the last 2 or 300s, you've got to be good to get a game, because I want an extra overseas player. I want the standard to be raised higher. And that might be contradictory to my argument of, obviously, not allowing English players to go and play overseas. But I want the standard to be higher. If you're going to pay them more, I'd want another overseas player in. I'd love it to get the 20 over per side, but I don't think I'm going to win that argument. But I think it starts somewhere, and obviously investment into the game, I think, is a good thing. But I would also like, if that county needs you during from April the 1st to October the 1st, other than the IPL, I don't think the county should. I think the county should be well within their rights to say, no, we're not signing that NOC.
And finally, moving back to, should I call it the takeover of Hampshire by the GMR group? So I have this deal with my wife every Sunday. I read the sports section, and she reads the grown-up sections, all the the business and the finance. And once we've finished, I say, anything I should know about? And she always says, no, you wouldn't understand. And so I can just move on and go to the driving range. But this week, she showed me an article that was in the business finance section, and it was all about cricket. I couldn't make head or tail of it, Harmy. You and I are not financial people, but the gist of it was that basically, and it was a kind of financial analysis piece. So it's written by somebody, really, I didn't got the impression they didn't know or care about cricket. But the gist of it was that the English county game, and with its shiny cherry, the franchise leagues, is a sitting duck, and it's ripe for the taking. That was the gist of it. And that if any cricket traditionalists felt otherwise, then at best they take up a different pastime. They said it was just like the majority of counties living hand to mouth, surviving, from month to month, season to season. And it was a ripe and soft target, and that very, very soon, now that the dam wall is broken, the whole game will be taken over. That's what it was saying.
But has that not been county cricket for 150 years? Have we not been the same place? have the same 14 counties got to September or got to October the 1st and gone, yes, we've made it. Thankfully, we've made it. Let's try and rebuild, get through all the way through till March, and let's start again. I mean, it hasn't done us badly up to now, has it? So, look, I look at that, and I get needs to be change. I guess there's money out there. There's new money out there that we can tap into. I don't think we should be moving away from 18 counties. I think there's a way of doing what suits everybody, which is, instead of getting rid of 6 counties that don't want to play red ball cricket, just make them play white ball cricket. Don't let them, they don't have to play red ball cricket, and make sure that the other 10 or 12 counties that do want to play multi-format cricket, they're the ones that are taking over. They're the ones that have got their shiny new money. They're the ones that have got the 100, if it goes to 120, I mean, if it goes to the T20 competition, because that's still, I mean, yes, it's this shiny red thing that everybody's ripe and wanting to tap into. It is, but there's no way in the world they're playing 100. Not even, I mean, I think not in their wildest dreams do they think 100 is a good idea from a format point of view. I think, from what it is in English cricket, it's perfect for what they want from a financial point of view. But again, you're saying that it's a sitting duck. It's there to be taken. It's ripe for to be taken. It is like that because the people that are in charge of it, or people that are trying to sell it, have treated it with so much disdain in the past. Then they're not really. Are they taking it seriously? That they're selling this brand new shiny product for. They're basically saying, right, we've got a 5-bedroom house, but we'll give it for the price. We'll give it for like a 3-bedroom house because we only think it's worth what. And we only look at it as a 3-bedroom house rather than that. I might not be making sense a bit, and more sense than what Sam Curran is. But I tell you what, I just think that 100 sale is such a mess that where will it end? And I'm not sure. As much as I said last week, this GMR group, it's brilliant to see them at the table, and it's a start of something. But I still think the end is miles away. Because what with the way that cricket is in this country and the constitution, I'm not sure there's a good outcome here. I really don't think there's a good outcome. And when somebody says, counties are dying and counties are this and counties are that in such a negative term, counties have been like that for 125 years. And it's got to this far, and it's got to this point, and they'll still be doing it in 125 years' time. When that new money's come in, that new money's been spent, and that new money's disappeared to somewhere new, county cricket will still be the same. And until people start to realise that, we might have a good time. We might have a few talking points. We might have some hardship as well.
You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, alongside Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison. Next up, we'll round up some of the week's other big stories as Tim Southee steps down as New Zealand Test captain, and we'll bring you the final word. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, alongside Durham Hall of Famer Steve Harmison. And a reminder, the latest episode of Bumble and Kimber is out now on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. And on this week's show, Bumble takes a look at what went wrong for Lancashire this season.
The overseas players were poor, really poor. They have a number of players who prefer white ball and won't play red ball, so that hinders them. And they're good players. You'd like to think that somewhere down the line, Liam Livingstone, Luke Wood, Phil Salt, Josh Butley, you can forget him.
Liam Livingstone's got a really good first-class record.
I thought he could have played Test match cricket, but he's gone down the white ball route, so that has been a hindrance. At the top, right, the very top of the club that, I've always been used to, since 1965, to having a hands-on chairman who's, he's on top of the game. And just a question that I'd mildly ask, politely, because it's my club, is cricket the priority? Is it a cricket club? Is it still a cricket club?
A lot of functions.
Or a hotel.
Or
a lot of concerts.
Or is it a stadium?
And you can hear the latest episode of Bumble and Kimber on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. All right, let's talk about Tim Southee. When we spoke to Ian Smith a couple of weeks ago, he strongly intimated that he thought that Tim Southee wasn't worth his place in the team. On his own radio show a couple of days later, he went a couple of steps further and said he must stand down now, and if he doesn't, he needs to be sacked. I think Tim Southee got the message, didn't he? It was a very strange appointment when Kane Williamson gave up the Test captaincy. Tim Southee could only ever have been a stopgap, really. But anyway, he captained in 14 tests, winning 6 and losing 6. But he has only taken 12 wickets in his last 8 tests. So no great shock there. Tim Southee's a very practical man. He's 35 years old. He's been playing for about 20. He was 16 when he made his debut, wasn't he? So he might be 35 years old, but I think his knees and other joints might be closer to 45 in cricket years. So no great surprise there, Harmy. Before we get your thoughts, here is what Tim Southee himself said.
Yeah, obviously a tough one, but like I've done for the last 17 years, is the best interest of the team that I care deeply about. So moving forward, it's the best decision for the team.
And just clarifying, was it your decision alone?
Yeah, well, we had discussions with Gary like we do at the end of every series, and it was my decision to move aside, and it's now Tom's time to, I guess, keep moving this team forward, and got 6 test matches to look forward to, and I'm excited about that.
There you go. He's the ultimate phlegmatic Kiwi, isn't he? I mean, there's just no great drama. Kiwis just don't get too high or too low. It's just a test captaincy. It's all right. World goes on.
Yeah, the world goes on. What a fantastic career he's had. I don't know Tim Southee. He played, I think I played in his debut. That might be the game I got dropped for. Me and Huggy got dropped when he made his debut. And it shows the length of career he's had. I mean, that was in 2008, and he's been a wonderful servant for New Zealand cricket. I didn't like the end when people talk, and I don't like that when people talk about being, well, if he doesn't, if they don't remove him, if he doesn't remove himself, they should remove him. Hopefully it was done in the same way as what Jimmy Anderson's was, tapped on the shoulder. I think when he took the captaincy over, I might be corrected on this, but I think Tom Latham was either injured or he was in such a poor vein of form that I think it was a little bit like the Kevin Peterson. The ECB desperately wanted Andrew Strauss, but Strauss, he couldn't spell run at the time. I mean, he was playing club cricket in New Zealand. And the minute Strauss started putting runs together, it was quite obvious that England were going to do something, or ECB hierarchy were going to do something to get rid of KP. I don't think that was the case in this instant. I think Tim Southee's form, a little bit like Jimmy Anderson's, I think it just dropped off a little bit when you look at Anderson's career at the end. I think he only took 1 new ball wicket in a long, long time. He was averaging 70 in his last sort of 7 or 8 test matches. I think Southee is like that. And I think you're right. I think a bowler's only got so many overs or balls bowled in his career. And I think Tim Southee's close to that limit, like Jimmy Anderson was. I think what you'd say, if I was a Kiwi, I'd be proud that he stepped in and took the captaincy the way he did after Kane Williamson, rather than try and judge him on that captaincy, because I think, you're right, he was a stopgap, but he's been a wonderful servant for New Zealand cricket.
And just confirmation that Tom Latham is stepping in as full-time test captain. And a reminder that you can hear live and exclusive commentary of New Zealand's test tour of India coming up very shortly. Also here on talkSPORT 2. And also the 3 tests against England in November and December. Harmy and I have started packing already. That's how excited we are about going back to New Zealand. But Harmy, let's move on to the final word now. And I'm gonna start with a close contender, because I'm going to leave the actual this week's final word to you. But an honourable mention for the Sharjah ground staff in reference to the Women's T20 World Cup. They seem to have somehow managed to make the Sharjah wickets even lower and even slower than normal. And also, just to make it even worse for the women, they to my eye, they've left the boundaries where they normally are for the men's game. I mean, normally the boundaries are brought in, particularly if the wicket's low and slow. And so we saw England defend 118 for 7. And those people who didn't see the game would have looked at the scorecard and thought, oh dear, that's against Bangladesh, 118 for 7. And of course, they defended it and won by 21 runs. Bangladesh 97 for 7. But I mean, what were they thinking? Like, bring the boundaries in. Just bring them in a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I want this to sound. I mean, it's hard when you make comments like this on the women's game, because people look at you and try and say, "Oh, you're being patronising." The boundaries need to be brought in. The women's game hasn't got the power yet that the men's game had, but the men's game didn't have the power 20, 30, 40 years ago. I think it was the way the men trained and the way the game progressed. And I think the women's game, with the financial infrastructure that's coming and the physicality that will come in, that will come eventually. I would make the pitch smaller. I'd make it like the junior pitch is 20 yards, I think, instead of 22 yards. Little things like that, I think, can help the game move on. And if it all of a sudden, if if it gets to a point, then you can always change it back. But I don't think the Sharjah groundsman's done anything to help the women's T20 at all. I mean, the ICC, I mean, I'm never going to get a job with the ICC, so it don't matter what I say. But they have a great way of absolutely punching themselves smash right on the end of the nose. They've done it with the men's T20 World Cup. They've now done it with the women's T20 World Cup. If you're going to move it, which they have done from a volatile situation, then move it to somewhere where you're going to entertain. And having Sharjah as one of your venues, key venues to entertain, I'm sorry, that pitch is not good enough. That ground hasn't been good enough in the men's game, let alone in the women's game. And I just think you're putting fuel on the fire of chauvinistic so-and-sos that will have a go at women's cricket, and that annoys me more than anything else, because for me that's progressing better than the men's game, the way the 100 has been and the way the women's game's getting better. So I don't think it has. But my final word is we've had Rocky twice, and we've mentioned Andrew in passing in on this show in recent weeks. But my final word is because he's going to get back to doing, for me, what he's done best for the last 10 years, is be the entertainer. That horrific accident, the horrific crash has curtailed his TV career, and that's why he's back in cricket. But me and Fred have been a massive fan of not only Bullseye, but darts over the course of the years. And to see the Christmas special of Andrew Flintoff standing in and Jim Bowen's shoes and being the host of Bullseye, I mean, he must be so excited. I'm so excited for him. I can't wait to see him do it. He is going to be amazing at it. And it's great to see my closest friend back on TV where he deserves to be, because, I mean, what he's gone through, I mean, superhumans don't come back from that. So for him to go back in front of a camera again at Christmas and deliver Bullseye, I mean, that's going to be amazing. So that's my final word this week.
Jim Bowen, brilliant, wasn't he? He was so good.
And do you know what Andrew will be? He'll be, and do you know what? I know Andrew, as I do, he'll not want to be using the lines like the super smashing great and the bus fare home and stuff like that. He wouldn't, because I think Andrew he'll try and deliver it with the respect of what the previous person did. I know there's been somebody in between who have been on a different TV channel. I think this is going to be back on ITV. It's going to be back like what Bullseye was, in front of millions and millions of people. Andrew Flintoff loved the sort of that. I think the Jim Bowen, Peter Kay, the Clubland entertainment, loved that, because that's where Andrew was from. He was from Preston. He's from sort of that era where Clubland was huge. And Jim Bowen was massive in Clubland, and I'm sure Andrew Flintoff will do a great job doing Bullseye. I can't wait to see it.
You've been listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, alongside former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. And we'll be back at the same time next week, or similar, to look ahead to the second test between Pakistan and England, also in Multan. But for now, this has been another edition of Following On.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.